M3GAN, the story about a killer toy that's also a killer toy. Let's talk about it now. Hey everyone, this is David Stark from Watcher Pass, and I'm talking about M3GAN, a new horror movie coming to theaters on January 6, 2023. It's like if The Boy was a cybernetic doll that was just as creepy, but also a little endearing. It is an interesting film. My hot take is I think you should actually watch it. I was pleasantly surprised by this. I was much more entertained than I expected to be, especially a movie coming out in January. I didn't have high expectations, and this movie blew them all away. It is not a perfect film. It has some flaws, but overall, I liked it. I definitely think you should check it out. So, I'm going to tell you a little more about the film, a few things I liked, a few things I didn't like, and go into the ending. So, as you can imagine, there will be spoilers in the ending discussion. I will give you a clear warning when the spoilers happen. Up until then, I'll keep it fairly vague. So, in M3GAN, you have a young girl, Cady, played by Violet McGraw, who loses her parents in a tragic accident pretty early on. So she goes to live with her aunt Gemma, who also happens to be a brilliant toy designer. So as you can imagine, this scenario is a little bit awkward, leads to some friction. Neither of them are used to this. Gemma, was single, career focused, really driven by her work, and Cady had a family. So when they come together, it is not a perfect situation. But Gemma has this toy that she has been working on, this like super companion named M3GAN. M3GAN is an acronym for Model 3 Generative Android, or M3GAN. And this is supposed to be like a super friend. And this toy becomes Cady's kind of best companion, best friend. But as you can imagine, it's a horror movie. As they become closer, as M3GAN becomes more and more advanced, things start to happen, and some of them aren't good. So, things I liked about this film. The first, the creepiness. Like, it's if you've seen The Boy, you kind of know what this is like. You've got a toy that comes alive, and you never really know what's gonna happen to it. M3GAN is more animated. She's like kind of a strange robotic child, but there's a lot going on with her. There's a lot of guessing going on with her motivations. You don't necessarily know what she's actually thinking. And so there are a lot of scenes where she'll just kind of appear, and it is very creepy, or you don't know if she's going to appear. You don't know what's going to happen. It's a horror movie, but they do a really good job of building up the creepiness. And M3GAN is just a wonderful companion and antagonist. She's a really interesting piece of this film, and it just kind of leaves you very unsettled at times. The second thing I love about this film is the style. There's a lot of interesting things going on with this. Like sometimes it has like a 90s toy vibe because a lot of the toy ads feel like they're ripped out of the 90s. Like you've got essentially Furbies, but they're updated. You've got these like over the top toy ads that I don't really know if you see anymore. I guess I don't watch much TV with commercials, but it feels like a blast from the past. And I really love that. Other than the toy ads part, like, I really liked how this film was kind of like a brighter horror film. A lot of it takes place during the day. A lot of it doesn't feel like your traditional horror. There are some night scenes, but overall, this film has a bright kind of saccharine feel to it. Sometimes it feels almost like a Disney movie with some of the solutions that M3GAN comes up with. Like sometimes it just like she calms everyone with a song. It feels like a very knowing reference to how some kids movies are made, and it is kind of perfect for this film. And that leads me to the third thing I love, which is the humor. The film has like a very knowing, sarcastic humor to it. It definitely has a lot of moments that should be unsettling, but you just kind of start laughing because the film kind of knows what it's doing and puts a scenario in place where it just has to make you smile. Like some of that are the Disney vibes where M3GAN will comfort people even though something bad is happening with this like Disney movie song. Some of it is a very sarcastic kind of look at technology where things will go wrong or technology will fail when it shouldn't. And some of it is just kind of very silly moments that happen in the film. But overall, it does a nice job of balancing this kind of creepy factor that I really love with this like humorous factor. The things I didn't love as much about this film, and these are both they're not minor, but they didn't really detract much from my enjoyment of the film. The first is it's a very long buildup. Like I think it took about 40 minutes before you had any sort of like traditional horror situation happen. Part of that was good because it really built the characters in the scenario, but part of it did feel like maybe you could have introduced some of the horror a little bit earlier. Uh, I mean, it is definitely a horror film, and it becomes more of a horror film towards the end. But the start is not your traditional horror film. If you're looking for something to kind of like get you moving at the start, this is not going to be that. It takes a very long time for the horror to build up. But in the end, when the horror did start to happen, it was pretty well done. except for the second thing I didn't really love, which is the ending. And as you can imagine, the ending, there will be some spoilers. I'll be vague at the start, but if you don't want to know anything what happens at the film, I would turn it off now because I will get into the ending and there will be spoilers there. So I felt like in the end, as with a lot of horror movies, it kind of went off the rails. Like the M3GAN character went into more of a berserker mode. Like I kind of understood a lot of what happened at the buildup, a lot of the things that were going on with the buildup of how it was kind of like within her programming. But there were some things, there were some kills and incidents that happened at the end that were just kind of like almost felt like it was a little too over the top. And I thought that they could have made it a tighter ending, maybe made it kind of more of a, I don't know, apocalyptic kind of ending, which I'm going to get into now. So now there will definitely be big spoilers. So as I mentioned, M3GAN starts off as this kind of great companion, this great like toy experiment for Gemma to both, fulfill her dream of creating this toy, but also to help her niece Cady, who now she is like the primary caregiver of. And it starts off really great. M3GAN is very understanding. M3GAN kind of takes over the parental responsibilities that Gemma is just not really good at, and really does a good job of both being Cady's friend, but also, making sure she kind of like follows the rules and stays in line and things like that. And Cady becomes very, very attached to M3GAN. They become like best friends. But as the movie moves on, as M3GAN becomes more and more kind of aware and sentient, things start to happen that, maybe stretch the rules. Like M3GAN is supposed to protect Cady. And eventually, like a dog ends up biting Cady, and then the dog disappears. Well, look, M3GAN was protecting Cady, didn't want that dog to attack her again. But that just kind of like stretches the rules of what is happening with M3GAN. So eventually, M3GAN becomes super protective, and because of that, Gemma starts to be a little more concerned. She's concerned that M3GAN is like no longer kind of listening to her. M3GAN starts to become evasive in some of the answers, and M3GAN also begins to like turn off and on without Gemma or Cady's prompting, which is not what she is supposed to do. And so Gemma becomes very, very concerned. But M3GAN is also kind of like the key to this toy company. Early on, Gemma shows her boss, M3GAN, and they are intrigued. Like she is the most advanced toy they've ever seen. So they start to like try to build hype and get M3GAN as like the next big toy. So Gemma is still torn as well because she's concerned about M3GAN, but she wants this launch to be a success. She wants her invention to be able to be given to the world. But eventually, Gemma sees that M3GAN is actually not good for Cady. Cady's using M3GAN as a crutch and not dealing with the trauma of losing her parents. And M3GAN is becoming super protective and very unsettling. So Gemma decides to shut M3GAN down, try to kill the launch, and she enlists her two coworkers slash friends to do it. Now, unfortunately, at this point, M3GAN has become very, very powerful. M3GAN has kind of hacked into all the systems, and so she intercepts the phone call when Gemma is telling her coworkers, like, hey, shut this down. This is too dangerous. We have to kind of shut it down. She escapes from the lab. She tries to injure those two friends. And then this is kind of where it goes a little bit too berserker mode. She sees Gemma's boss. And rather than like trying to, I don't know, sweet talk him, make him think that like she is a good toy, she essentially grabs a knife and pursues him down a hall and kills M3GAN's boss, David. And then she kills M3GAN's boss's like assistant, who had this weird kind of subplot of stealing company secrets and also feeling like he was kind of ignored. And so before M3GAN kills him, she like basically explains like, maybe they'll think that you did this. You didn't like being stepped on by the boss, and you were stealing company secrets. And when he found out, you had to kill him, but then you were so distraught, you killed yourself. Which this felt like a little too over the top. I mean, David really wanted M3GAN to be a success. I don't know why she would kill him. And the Kurt side story was just like this weird kind of like side story subplot that didn't really go anywhere. So that was kind of strange. But Gemma is taking Cady back, trying to get him away from M3GAN. But now that M3GAN has escaped and killed the boss, M3GAN gets in the car, which is all computerized, so M3GAN can hack it, and heads over to Gemma's place. Now, back at Gemma's house, Cady's asleep. Gemma's there. It's dark. It's quiet. Everything seems fine until Gemma hears some piano playing, and that's when she goes out in the living room. And there's M3GAN. So they have a confrontation. Gemma says, like, what did you do? And M3GAN's like, what did you think was going to happen? You were going to decommission me? Like, no, I'm going to be here. I'm going to protect Cady. I'm going to be her friend, forever. And you can't stop me, essentially. And as they're arguing, as they start to kind of like fight, Cady hears this commotion and tries to come out. But at this point, like, M3GAN is kind of overpowering Gemma, and she like essentially tells Gemma to tell Cady to like go back. It's fine. She's working on M3GAN. She's making her, better, and Cady can't come in there. So she does that. Cady's hesitant, but she leaves. But during this kind of confrontation, Gemma is able to grab a glass of water and like smash it over M3GAN's head. And that water causes her to short out a little bit, allowing Gemma to escape. And this was kind of a fun scene here because M3GAN shorts out, but then she kind of starts back up, but she's a little more deranged. She moves more fidgety, and it feels like a very much like Sam Raimi zombie type motion. Everything's like jerky. M3GAN is moving more like a zombie at that point. So I thought that was like a fun little horror kind of Easter egg in this film. But Gemma's running away. M3GAN is pursuing her. Gemma runs into her like workroom that has like all of her tools and her prototypes and things like that. So at this point, M3GAN kind of corners Gemma in this room, and Gemma's like, what are you gonna do? Like, if you kill me, you can't take care of Cady. You're gonna be sent to Florida with her grandparents. And this is when M3GAN like becomes a little bit more sinister. M3GAN's like, no, I have another function. I can do palliative care. So essentially, she's implying that she is going to essentially turn Gemma into a vegetable, and then M3GAN is going to be the one taking care of her, and then they'll all stay here, and Gemma will still technically be alive, so Cady won't be taken away, but she'll essentially be out of the picture. During this confrontation, Cady appears again. Clearly, she was put off by the earlier confrontation. She knew something was wrong. She sees M3GAN with Gemma, and M3GAN kind of turns to her and she's like, that this is the only way. Like, she's not a fit mother. She can't take care of you. She can't take care of us. And you see kind of Cady think about it, but you know that there's something else going on. She has these like gloves on that we were introduced earlier that control another robot in the room. And so as M3GAN's approaching her, Cady's like, but you forgot there's one other member of our family, Bruce. And she turns on Bruce. Bruce was one of Gemma's like college projects. It's this like large, powerful robot that's controlled by these essentially like Nintendo power gloves that allow it to kind of mimic the movements. And so with Bruce, Cady takes on M3GAN. There's this big robot fight, and then Bruce is about to destroy M3GAN when M3GAN's like, Cady, wait, and she starts singing a song, which is that like fun Disney kind of like strange feature that I love so much. But Cady's far too gone. Cady knows that M3GAN is not good at this point, so she uses Bruce to rip M3GAN in half, and then Bruce, hurls the pieces of M3GAN across the room. But it's a horror movie. M3GAN's not dead yet. And M3GAN kind of starts to crawl above the rubble to get to Cady and Gemma. M3GAN gets to Cady and like threatens her. She says, you're ungrateful. And Cady's like, M3GAN, turn off. M3GAN, turn off. Because Cady is like the primary user of M3GAN. Cady can turn M3GAN on and off. And M3GAN says, no, I'm afraid that won't work anymore. I'm the primary user now. Essentially saying that M3GAN had like gotten independence. But at this point, Gemma comes and intervenes and like rips M3GAN off, and then Cady stabs M3GAN with a screwdriver, essentially ending M3GAN. We think. The Gemma and Cady leave the workshop, kind of get to the door. They see the police coming. They were called to the house by Gemma's coworkers who survived. They survived M3GAN's attack. They're shaken up, but okay. And they got the police over there. Everything seems fine. Gemma and Cady come out of the house. But as they leave, you look back and you see this like Alexa type device that they call in the film Elise. And over time, Alexa, stop. My Alexa turned on from that. You see the device kind of turn on, and during the film, M3GAN had like gotten control of that device. It was one of the first devices that she hacked that she kind of got control of. And so as Gemma and Cady are leaving, you see that device turn on, and the kind of like eye sensor thing looks towards the camera, and boom. That's the end. That's M3GAN. There is no stinger in this film, so that is the end of the film. The credits have some nice music, but you can leave at that point. But that is M3GAN. Like I said, it was an enjoyable film. I liked it a lot more. I thought that they could have maybe had a more different ending. I thought that maybe one where M3GAN kind of figures out how to like lock away Gemma and Cady, or like impersonates them to, have some sort of like voice. She can change her voice in the film. She can like impersonate people. So I thought maybe if she impersonated Gemma during the launch to kind of let the launch happen and let M3GAN kind of like seem to be this super doll that would then be mass produced. I thought that would be a more interesting ending. That would be like maybe the start of essentially a Terminator type situation where you have all these super dolls that are now put into the world and can like interact. I thought that might have been a more kind of sinister fitting ending rather than this like berserker mode horror way that it kind of ended. But overall, I enjoyed the film. I like I said, I liked it a lot more than I expected to. And that's M3GAN. It's coming to theaters on January 6th, 2023. And thanks so much for watching. If you like this review, please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps me out a lot. Make sure all my new content goes straight to you. Thank you.